Hey guys, and welcome to Quality Shot. We've got two incredible fights coming up, and I'm going to touch upon also the big upset with Teofimo Lopez losing to George Kambosos Jr., which was an upset to say the least. But first of all, let's go on to the previews first. Let's start off with the one which has got the most bad blood, which is, of course, Lyndon Arthur versus Anthony Yarde, the rematch where Lyndon Arthur, of course, in the first fight, edged out Anthony Yarde, which was an upset. He did go in as a champion. He was a Commonwealth champion. But Anthony Yarde, after obviously showing some promise as well against Kovalev in that world title fight, where I think we can say he was comprehensively outboxed. But there was that one round, wasn't there? One round where he had Kovalev in trouble and he just gassed out. He didn't quite managed to get the job done. And in the end, Kovalev stopping Anthony Yarde really through exhaustion more than anything. Since then, obviously, we've had the first fight, and it's going to be, I think it's the 5th of December, so it's going to be just under a year, so it'll be 4th of December, which is incredible, really, for the rematch. It'll be so interesting to see how it plays out. Such a different set of skills both fighters have. The styles will gel well. We know that. There's definitely bad blood there. Pat Barrett and Tunde Jai, talking about going on the roads, and Tunde saying you're not punching no one, etc. So if you haven't seen the build-up, do check out the press conferences. I thought they were really interesting actually as well. Both fighters definitely have respect for each other, but both think they're the superior fighter. Don't have any illusions about that. For sure, I think Anthony Yarde is someone who definitely has the branding. He's, of course, sponsored by Adidas and Foot Locker, and he is alongside what was Daniel Dubois before, but he's seen by Frank Warren as being one of the guys to take Queensbury and BT forward. So that loss to Lyndon Arthur was a big blow, no doubt. Lyndon Arthur is someone who was unbeaten going into it. I think he was really put in there because he had a very good WBO ranking. And if Anthony Yarde wins that, he probably gets the title shot instead of Callum Johnson, who's getting it now, against Joe Smith Jr. Apparently, the winner of Joe Smith Jr. versus Callum Johnson will fight the winner of this. I don't know. I would like to see that for sure. So let's break it down then quickly. I don't want to spend too much time on it. We will be doing a live watch along for Yarde versus Arthur 2 or Arthur versus Yarde 2 even. It's going to be a cracker. Of course, Hamza Shiraz is on the undercard as well. He's got an interesting fight. And of course, Dennis McCann, the ever-entertaining Dennis McCann, is on the undercard as well. So we will try and cover at least some of the undercard, and definitely the main fight will be myself and Muhammad, or Muhammad himself. So do support the channel, get involved, and of course, the watch-along is always good fun. It's tough to know which way this one's going to go, honestly, because Anthony Yarde has got the power. We know that. Lyndon Arthur, though, has got the jab. I think the better boxing IQ. We saw that in the first fight. Anthony Yarde tried to box with Lyndon Arthur. It wasn't the right move. He had success in that 12th round where he just swarmed Lyndon Arthur, and he looked like he'd hurt him a little bit. In my eyes, he won the first fight pretty clearly. I don't think there was too much doubt. And, I think you maybe could have given it to Anthony Yarde, but I find it very, very hard to find rounds for him. I think maybe a draw at max. But to be honest with you, in my eyes, Lyndon Arthur won that and won it pretty well, to be fair. Now, in this one, obviously, he will have a right hand, which he didn't have, really, in that first fight because it was injured. He threw it, I would say, about 4 or 5 times throughout the whole fight. And, of course, there's that little clip of Pat Barrett telling Lyndon Arthur to throw the right hand. He says, I can't. And it's not because he can't, because Yarde is being too good defensively and he's not letting him getting in range with the right hand. It's because he physically couldn't throw it. Now, clearly there is a lot going on there in the sense that, is he going to throw the right hand more? You would imagine so. But he had so much success with the jab. If he then starts throwing a lot of right hands, is that going to leave him open, and is that going to make him susceptible to counters? That will be a nightmare. Honestly, it'll be a nightmare because he doesn't want Anthony Yarde coming onto him. He doesn't want that pressure. I'll tell you that now. He doesn't. And we saw what might happen and might play out if Anthony Yarde starts from the off. I don't think he will. He'll try and be measured about it. But he has said he's going to come forward and try and apply more pressure. I think he knows that, even though he said in the press conference that he thinks he can outbox Lyndon Arthur, I think realistically he should know that if he wants to go toe-to-toe technically with Lyndon Arthur, he's too slick for him, but he's got the power to give anyone trouble in the light heavyweight division, so he should be going for it. Earlier, the only issue is the gas tank, and if Lyndon Arthur is elusive enough and can then get out the way. I'm going to go for repeat rather than revenge. I'm going to go with Lyndon Arthur. I think if he manages to keep his head screwed on correctly, manage to throw that jab from the hip, which is so effective, and it's a lot harder to sight coming from the hip. I know Carl Frampton said it in the breakdown for BT, and it's so true from what I've heard other fighters say, and just physically, coming from your shoulder, you can see it coming. It's a ramrod jab, but coming from your hip, it's very tough to pick it up sometimes, and I feel like Yarde struggled with that. So we'll see how this fight goes. I think it'll be very close. I wouldn't be surprised if it's another very close decision. I wouldn't be surprised if someone gets knocked out. And I think both have some power. I think Yarde obviously has the bigger power. Their most recent fights both got stoppages. Anthony Yarde, I think it was 1 round. And then Lyndon Arthur, I think it was a few, maybe 4 or 5. So, yeah, let's see how that one goes. Right, on to then the fight in America. Devin Haney versus JoJo Diaz. Now, JoJo Diaz has beaten Tevin Farmer at super featherweight, so he's come up in weight, but he's filled out quite nicely, to be fair. And he's looking to get a world title in another weight class, which will be interesting. He's a good fighter. Don't sleep on him. He's a pressure fighter, and I think he will have success. He used to have what some people call pillow fists, but I feel like as he's gone through the weights, his power has got better. It's not concussive power. I don't think he's going to be knocking out Devin Haney, but he could give him trouble. And he's a very, very solid opponent, I think. And it's good to see Devin Haney getting in with more solid, accomplished fighters. Obviously, he fought Linares in the last fight. Some might say washed up. He fought Gamboa. Now he's going to fight JoJo Diaz, who, to be fair, is not washed up. He's in his prime, really. He was supposed to fight Ryan Garcia. Obviously, Ryan Garcia pulled out, so now Haney's taken the reins. And this is a big opportunity for him. After what happened with Teofimo Lopez as well, this is a huge opportunity for Devin Haney to just stamp his authority on the lightweight division and say, look, you know what? Kambosos did the business against Teofimo, so he can rightfully say he's number 1. But you know what? I'm right behind him, and I'm coming for him. I think there's been a little bit of a distraction with Kambosos being at the fight, and I know Eddie would have loved that because he obviously wants to try and get promoting on that ASAP and try and get it sealed. The issue with that is, of course, the old adage, which is don't count your chickens too early, right? I just think it's... he needs to be careful, Devin Haney. It seems like he's maybe looking past JoJo Diaz. I know, to be fair to him, I've seen some interviews where there's been a lot of questions about Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos, and then he's actually tried to shut down the interviews by saying, look, I need to get through JoJo Diaz first, and that's what he should be doing. He needs to just complete switch off. It's exactly what happened with Anthony Joshua when he lost to Ruiz. I was talking to him about Deontay Wilder. Similar thing really against Usyk, although to be fair, I think you just have to give Usyk credit there, to be fair. He was too good. And the same thing happened last week. Teofimo Lopez underestimated George Kambosos Jr., and we'll get onto that in a second. And Kambosos is a very good fighter and made him pay. And it looks like, to be honest with you, Devin Haney might be in trouble if he doesn't have his head screwed on correctly. I'm sure his preparation would have been fine. I think it's now knowing that undisputed fight could be very, very close. And if he wins this, most likely he'll get it. I'm sure he's getting excited about that. He needs to put that to the back of his mind and say, okay, I'm excited, but you know what? I'm going to get the job done. And if he gets the job done here, then he can think about that. But for me, he has to be sharp. If he's not, JoJo Diaz can easily upset the apple cart, as I like to say, but Haney should be too slick. Does he go for the what's perceived as the boring style and keep Diaz at range, pop him with a jab, good slick movement, back in and out, and moving well, evading, being very elusive. We know he can fight on the inside as well, but of course then he's more susceptible to getting hit, and that could then fall into the game plan of JoJo Diaz, where he likes to fight on the inside, he likes to get into a firefight. So I think he needs to find a blend where it's going to be fan friendly, but also he doesn't get hit. Now it's difficult for him because realistically, he'll probably box Diaz's head off for 12 rounds and be boring. Well, what's perceived as boring by a lot of fans. But I think he's aware that he needs to bring something to the table in terms of excitement, and he doesn't really have huge concussive power either, so that probably doesn't help. Right, let's then have a look. Let's see. I think, let's be honest as well. Diaz is a good fighter. Let's not underestimate him. It's going to be a good fight. And I see Haney winning on points. That's what I see. Let's see how it plays out. I would be surprised if he stops Diaz, but I think if he does, I think it's a good statement. We can stop him, even if it's late on. Doesn't matter. It makes a big, big difference for sure. Okay, in terms of then looking, and before we wrap up, I want to very briefly discuss the Teofimo and George Kambosos Jr. fight. First of all, thank you to those who joined the live watch along. Also, we will be doing a live watch along, for Devin Haney versus JoJo Diaz. It should be Muhammad, if not myself as well. And yeah, I mean, look, first of all, thank you to everyone who joined the watch along for Teofimo Lopez versus George Kambosos Jr. It was a fantastic fight. It really, really was. We thoroughly enjoyed it. Teofimo Lopez was disappointing in terms of, I think, a few things. The performance, number one. Number two, his attitude, I think, to the fight. And number three, his post-match speech. So let's break it down. Performance-wise, wasn't good enough. He clearly underprepared. He clearly thought that George Kambosos Jr. was just a knockover job. He came out first round swinging, trying to get him out of there. George Kambosos Jr. is a lot better than he thought, and a lot better than we thought as well, to be fair. To him, he's a very good fighter. And all those rounds with Manny Pacquiao, he wanted to get out of the shadow just being a sparring partner, and he definitely has. He's now, well, I guess undisputed or unified, doesn't matter, whatever. He's basically number one. Fantastic display of boxing, just really, really impressive. And I think the main thing that then lit the fire was the fact that he was under pressure in that first round, and then he just knocked Teofimo Lopez on his butt. And as soon as he did that with that right hand, the counter right hand, and to be fair, that counter right hand was there all fight long. He just threw it and threw it and threw it, and Teofimo Lopez had absolutely no answer to that counter right. Straight down the pipe, and every time Teofimo Lopez would pretty much get tagged. It was really impressive from George Kambosos. He showed fantastic skill. I know he's been known to just be a pressure fighter, so to see him have different layers to his game, which clearly are not just, okay layers. These are really good layers, and people saying that, he's a 7 or 8 out of 10 in pretty much everything. He pretty much is, and that shows that he's a pretty damn complete fighter, and he's a force to be reckoned with in that division. He's actually taller than Teofimo Lopez. He's not as filled out, but he's a damn good fighter. He really is. He's got skills to pay the bills, really elusive, good foot movement, good head movement as well. And I just thought some of the combinations that he was throwing, really incredible to see. Genuinely, head and body. And he just looks the real deal. Of course, he got hurt as well in one of the rounds from Teofimo, and he got dropped. He got hit with a pretty good shot towards the end of the fight. He recovered like an absolute beast, by the way. What a heart, and he's got a damn good chin because he recovered really quickly and he took over in the last two rounds. He's got dropped in the 10th and 11th and 12th. He won those rounds, no doubt. I think in our eyes, I think me and Mahal, we had it. I think we had Kambosos up maybe by 4 rounds. So 116, 112, something like that. 115, 111, however you want. I would have been 115, 111 probably. Now, Teo coming out and saying that he won 10 out of the 12 rounds is unbelievably delusional. Now, I might give him the benefit of the doubt because he might have been concussed, he might have just been hurt, and he maybe didn't look at the fight. And sometimes when you're in the fight, you think you've done better than you actually have. But then for his dad to come out days after, and in every interview saying that we won that fight and trying to blame DAZN and say that basically they were cheated, it's just ridiculously stupid. Just take it on the chin and get on with it. His dad was terrible in the corner as well. Some of the instructions were just poor, just telling him to basically F him up and do this. And he said, calm down, and then basically said to him, knock him out in the same sentence. It was just so strange. Absolutely no direction. The trainer he had for the fight against Lomachenko wasn't there. He needs to really think about 1, his preparation, 2, his coaching, and 3, like his dad's his dad, so I can understand he'll always want him around. But I feel like he's got way too much influence, way too much. Like before he was the mouthpiece, but he wasn't really involved too much in camp in terms of the training. Now it seems like he's doing everything, and he's not a proper trainer. Like I hate to say, but he's not. From the sounds of it, anyway. From what he's saying in the corner, this isn't a motivational speech. This is a fight. So, look, he's got a lot to reflect upon. George Kambosos Jr., though, the world's his oyster. No rematch clause, so doesn't need to run it back again. And Teofimo Lopez, to be fair, I don't think he'd even take it. And I think he will move up. He said he's been squeezing himself down to 135. That's your own fault. And he said, I've done it for 2 years. Again, that's your own fault. You don't need to fight at 135. As soon as he beat Lomachenko, he should have said, I want to move up. If he moves up, drops all the belts, doesn't matter. He could probably fight Josh Taylor straight away, whoever. Instead, he was just, the time he's been out, which was like nearly a year, he's been filling his head with delusions of grandeur, like I'm the best thing since sliced bread. And the way that he talks sometimes is just incredible. Like some of these guys are just, I don't understand it. They're not the 4 kings at all. Don't disrespect, those old legends, like until they actually do something significant, not just one, but get 2 or 3 significant fights under their belts and wins and fight against each other, then you can say that. Until then, forget it. And as George Kambosos said, he's the emperor, and he is, to be fair. So let's see. I mean, it's funny, Shaquille Stevenson, Ryan Garcia, all coming out, calling him out. Devin Haney as well, but Devin Haney, I guess, has got more of a warrant. He's more warranted in saying that because he's got a belt. Let's see how it all pans out. I would assume we will see that undisputed fight, and then let's see if we can see Ryan Garcia, Javonta, Teofimo. I guess we'll probably move up, but let's just see them all. Lomachenko, come on, man, just get in the mix. But let's see. Anyway, thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Please remember to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't already, please do click the notification bell as well to get alerted to all new videos. And do support us. Get involved in the watch-alongs for Arthur Yarde 2 and Devin Haney versus JoJo Diaz. Both tomorrow's Saturday, UK time evening, and then US time. Get involved. Thank you very much.